Welcome to another episode of LawTech Connect on Litera TV. I'm Adriana Linares. I'm your host. And with me today is the woman, the legend, Renee Stackhouse.
Hi, good morning.
Renee, I'm so happy to have you on because I'm not kidding. I need to go back and listen to, I think there's been about 12 episodes now. Your name has come up in every single one of them.
That's hysterical.
It is, right? I mean, you literally are a legend. And every time someone comes on, they go, she's amazing. I go, she is amazing. This woman does everything. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
A little bit about me. Okay. So I would say mama, business owner, lawyer, wife, caregiver. That's the gig all the time. Volunteer for a lot of things. So every second of the day is planned to fit one of those categories.
How much planning do you really do? So do you make lists? Do you have a calendar? Because the amount of shit that you do in a day, in a week is seriously impressive. Your productivity level is masterful.
Well, I am a planner. So luckily I've got that going for me. And I've been working on teaching my husband that as well. So now he is starting to become a planner. But yeah, calendaring, very important to me. To-do lists, very important to me. And nothing is more satisfying to me than being able to check those things off.
I know. Sometimes I got a little paper list that I like. And sometimes I'll even say to my boyfriend, I'll be like, watch me, watch me.
Exactly. Yes. Because it is so gratifying.
It is. And it's one of the few paper things that I always continue to do. I love a paper list because I love to cross it off. So that's very funny. I've had your husband on Litera TV. He was a guest in December, and he and you both practice military law. That's your niche.
We do. Yeah.
I never get tired of this topic. So when Phil Stackhouse was on, you're Renee Stackhouse, when Phil was on, he gave us a lot of insight about the inside baseball, about the courts and how the system works. And then for you, tell me about your experience, because you were not previously military. He was. So did you get into military law because of him? Did you meet through military law? I think you have spent a lot of time were you a military family?
So, I mean, kind of. My grandfather was in the Navy. For just a couple of years. He was a naval doctor, and my uncle was in the Air Force. So I was familiar a little bit with it, but really I worked for a decade on Marine Corps Base Camp Pendleton as a civil service employee. So I was around it all the time, and I loved working with the military. Yeah, it was great. I had a fun job. Everything was special events. So concerts and having the Chargers come and doing all these
the social side.
Series. Yeah, it was really fun. It was giving back to the military for their service. So it was good times. And then I went to law school, and I was still working while I went to law school. But one of the cases I got involved in as a summer intern was the Pendleton 8, which was a really newsworthy case in 2009, I want to say. And it was a war crimes case. There were multiple defendants, and it was incredible. It was an incredible experience. It was great working on the team, and I represented PFC John Jodka as a legal intern, not as the lawyer, but right. It was really fascinating to combine.
I can only imagine how fascinating it must have been. I mean, to be able to soak all that experience up, and just it must have been totally awesome.
It was incredible, and I'm still friends with his dad today. So. Aww. It was a lasting experience. And then I kind of moved away from that. I did all civil stuff for my first few years of practice. And then when I went to trial lawyers college in 2012,
this damn trial lawyers college
keeps coming up.
It always comes up too. Well, I mean, it's because you're at the center of a lot of the guests that I've had, and that's where you meet them. So I want you to also just talk about that experience and how you continue to give back to the trial lawyers college.
Well, it sounds so cliche. A lot of people who go say it's life-changing, but it really is life-changing. So I went there. You go for 3 weeks, no cell phone, no internet. You just work on your trial skills. You work on you, and you learn how to actively listen. You learn how to reverse roles with your clients. You learn how to do all these basic human skills that make you a much better lawyer. But several of the teachers there are retired military guys, including Phil, my husband, and Haitham Faraj, Joey Lowe, like just a bunch, Colby Vokey, one of my favorites. So they all were doing military work.
Huh.
And eventually got to the point where there were some multiple defendant cases, and they said, hey, we need another lawyer. Come on, Renee, let's do it. And Phil started, teaching me how to do things. We started working on cases together, and it was like coming home,
Cool.
reuniting with my military side, and knowing already the culture helped. Had to learn the UCMJ, but that's okay. I had to learn different codes for other things before.
And is that Universal Code for Military Justice? No.
It's
rats.
No, it's okay. It's the Uniform Code of Military Justice, but close.
That's awesome.
Universal would be cooler. It sounds more superhero.
Yeah, no, definitely. Which we're going to talk about the superhero that you are in a minute. So that's pretty cool. But wait, I had this funny thought where when you met them and you were like, well, I was part of the Pendleton 8 team.
Oh, so a lot of them were too. And
that's cool.
They were actually not happy with some of the stuff we did. So there was some back and forth, and so I had to kind of regain the street cred that I thought I was throwing out there.
Right. That's hilarious.
Yeah. Oops.
But
it was a really great, and those, like I said, Colby's one of my favorite. Hatham's incredible. There's just some really great guys, and they've gone through this whole process. The military is so interesting because when you're a military lawyer, you are assigned, you do the prosecutor side, you do the defense side, you're assigned to be a judge even, and you just go back and forth and back and forth. So they have such a wealth of knowledge of coming at a case from every different angle. So it's just really interesting to learn that, to benefit from their wisdom and their mentorship. And I have a blast doing military cases. They're fascinating.
I'm sure they are. And you also, and I don't know if this is necessarily just your military case work, but you also have done a couple of murder cases.
Yeah, those are definitely the military.
Those were military. Mm-hmm. And I remember chatting with you once, and you were going to look at blood splatters.
Yes.
And you were super excited about it.
I was, because I'm a nerd. So I'm not, luckily for me, I think through my personal injury work, I'm not easily, frightened of pictures or scared of the we had a burn case one time. It was my client was in a medically induced coma for 3 months, and I had no problem, here's the pictures of them, skinning the dead skin off and replacing it. Right. I think it's fascinating, and the insurance company was ready to throw up, and it was much easier to settle the case because they didn't have the stomach for it. So anyway, going to the scene and checking out for the trajectory of the bullets, looking at all of that really helped understand right away that he couldn't possibly have committed the crime that he was accused of at that point. So those are really important steps to take.
I had Don Melceric on last week, and Malarsic. I don't know why I had the lovely Don on, and he told a story also about actually traveling all the way to Micronesia to get those. To basically, I guess what I'm saying is being able to go on site, whether it's something like what you just described, or to get to know people that are part of a case, is a really important part of really being able to defend your client.
So important. It's so important, the getting to know your client thing as well, too. And I think that's the part we've struggled with over the last year with COVID. But I am so proud that Trial Lawyers College really started putting resources immediately towards how do we connect with our clients remotely when that's all we have. So there are ways to do it, and it does work, but it takes a little bit more effort. But definitely the traveling is important, immersing yourself in their lives so you can understand them.
Let me switch gears a little bit and talk about not just your travels and COVID and how busy you are, but I do want to talk about, or just ask you, we started with how you get so much done. You are currently the president of the San Diego County Bar Association.
I am a quarter of the way through it as of today.
And, during the COVID era, and you had to do the switch at the, beginning of January. So how have you perceived what the legal profession has gone through during COVID, and make sure to address the local courts in San Diego, which I think have done a model job of working through COVID. And you've been very involved with all that as well.
So I'll tell you, I think that COVID has been a blessing and a curse for the court system. I am so thrilled with the huge tech jump that has been forced upon us. I don't think, I mean, yeah, exactly. I don't think we would have gotten to where we are now, but for 10 years without COVID, right?
Totally agree.
We have now the ability to save clients time and money. We have the ability to save ourselves time by appearing remotely. It is wonderful. And I hope that most of it stays. I wouldn't mind getting back to in-person jury trials. That would be fantastic. But otherwise, for the basic hearings, like, let's do that remotely forever. That's just the best. The downside is the standstill that happened for months as the courts tried to figure out a way to safely keep moving. And you're right, San Diego's done an incredible job. Presiding Judge Alksney has been leading that charge in San Diego. And I can't even imagine the amount of stress that woman must be under all the time. 4 different courthouses trying to make sure people are safe. The wheels of justice are still moving. They've got a huge backlog, thousands and thousands of cases that they're going to have to tackle. But we have folks in San Diego who've done remarkable innovations like Resolve Law, lawyers coming together to help mediate cases to try to resolve them outside the court system for free.
That's a group called Resolve Law.
It was a joint effort between the plaintiff's bar and the defense bar. And they created this entity just for this purpose. And said, look, we want volunteer lawyers to come. We're going to mediate these cases. We're going to get them off the court's calendar.
Wow.
Incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. Excuse me. I tell the story all the time, and I'm sorry if someone has heard me say it before, but I've been in legal a little over 20 years now, all over the country. I've traveled, I've worked in law firms, I've gone to law schools, I've worked with organizations and bar associations. And I tend to really think that the legal community in different pockets of the country are pretty similar. There's not a big, legal is legal, I say a lot. San Diego's really special. It's different, right? And I say that because I've now spent 3 years going there on a semi-regular basis to also work for the San Diego County Bar Association. That's how you and I know each other. And I found that the military presence and impressions it makes on legal are incredible. The immigration issues that San Diego and the legal community has there, being right on the border, are fascinating. The Native American reservations and that community is also very strong. Not to mention, San Diego is an international gateway from Central America. So it really is that San Diego is really
called America's finest city.
Are we? Oh, I did not know that was the nickname. Well, it's true. And the legal community, I mean, you can get into San Diego and be a part of any little pocket of legal and have a place. It's really amazing. And it's a small, big town. Everyone sort of knows each other. So the fact that these things can happen so quickly, I think lends itself to the fact that San Diego's a small, big town and everyone knows each other. And I find that the legal community is very supportive of each other there. I find that everywhere, but San Diego is really, really interesting. You're also, special. Yeah, I agree. Special. You're also very active, very passionate about a lot of social justice issues.
Yes. Yes. I've got my
sometimes to a fault. Yeah, you do.
But it's hard to turn down, right? Those are the things where you go, yes, I can make a difference there. I can make a difference there. Fine, I'm going to. So it's wonderful to have that opportunity. And that's how I kind of look at it, is they're all opportunities. So
I know that you do a lot of the things that you do because it's a passion you have or an interest you have. But I wonder too, could you speak to how important community involvement is in becoming a good lawyer, in business development, and just why that matters? Because I think when I talk to a lot of young lawyers, they'll say, everybody tells me to get involved. Everybody tells me to get a mentor. Everybody tells me to volunteer. I don't have the time, or I don't see the benefit. So can you speak to that? Because I think it's really important to push that point.
Sure. I mean, it is absolutely worth the time and the effort. And it is like another job sometimes, especially when you're just starting out. You should treat it like that and put the effort into it like you would with a job, and you have a boss you're trying to impress, because ultimately you will get a boss you're trying to impress out of it, right? And in San Diego, people don't hire off of resumes. We hire off of interactions. We hire off of referrals and people saying,
this is very
person
true.
is fantastic. And how do we know you're fantastic? We're not going to have the opportunity to work with you necessarily. We know because you joined a lawyers club or the county bar, you came to a committee meeting and you signed up to do some extra work, and then you followed through. And that's like 2% of the population, right? Who are actually going to come, put in the effort, follow through, do the hard work. And so that's what we're looking for in lawyers we want to work with. That's what we want the folks at our offices to do. We want to know that they're cool. We want to know that we want to spend, 8 to 10 to 12 hours a day with them. We want to know that they're going to follow through. That's what makes a good coworker in the law: commitment, dedication, good personality.
And time,
yeah. So I think it's incredibly important to give back, and you make a difference.
And I think it's true. All those things are so true. And I think I've never spoken to a successful lawyer who didn't do all of these things on the side. And it's just a pattern that I see over and over again. What are some of your favorite social justice issues that you're working on these days or a part of?
Well, I'll tell you right now, the huge news piece is the anti-Asian racism that's happening across the country. And I was really proud of the SDCBA. We just released a statement condemning those acts. And a year ago, we issued a statement condemning the xenophobic and racist slurs that were being used. It's escalated since then. We're seeing a huge social justice movement, racial justice movement, and we're there to support it because everyone's watching the murder trial right now too, right? So I think there's a whole, there's a whole lot of room for positive change in our country, and that change, it goes over into our legal system. We had the benefit of having Dr. Michelle Goodwin come speak to the SDCBA last year, I think in August timeframe, and she talked about race and the law. And I learned so much from listening to her, things that I never understood before about how the law was basically premised on racism, created to be racially imbalanced. The system isn't broken, as people like to say. The system is functioning exactly as it was designed to. And that is horrific, right? So we as lawyers who always are on our, are wearing our white hats and saying how great what we do and how noble what we do is, we have the ability to actually create that noble profession and change it for the better so that it is not skewed anymore. And so that's what we should be doing.
You are a force and a voice in that activity, Renee. That is for damn sure. You're also, on top of being a busy lawyer, practicing military law and personal injury, and being the president of the San Diego County Bar Association, and being very active in the Lawyers Club and 20 other organizations. I don't know. Nobody knows how you do it, Renee. Nobody knows. We all wonder. You are also an entrepreneur because you started a company called MCLE.
I did. So MCLE. And people are always like, what is that? How does what?
Let's talk about it.
Okay. So I thought it was cute because Loy Hers was already trademarked, so I couldn't do that. And I was like, that was so good. But someone beat me to it. So I was like, all right, MCLE, our mandatory continuing legal education. I'm going to make it MCLE. It's going to be designed towards women, though we do have a lot of men who attend and non-binary folks. So, even though it's geared towards women, I think there's a lot of crossover basically when it comes to, there are hurdles in the profession that make it harder for folks who are not Caucasian males to advance. And that's not me being a jaded Latina in saying that. That's the studies. That's what the studies show. It shows that women of color disproportionately leave the profession. It shows that mommies disproportionately leave the profession or are mommy tracked in the profession. It shows that men of color have those same issues, and non-binary folks, let's not even get started on that. I could go on and on and on. We just had the Transgender Day of Visibility yesterday, and that's such a struggle still to this day with folks feeling comfortable being themselves. So MCLE was born a few years ago, and I could not get people to come into the studio in Vista, about 45 minutes north of San Diego, to record these things. And no one knew what Zoom was at that time. I was not comfortable with it. So it kind of just got put on the shelf. And then the pandemic hit. And my friend Lisette called me and said, girl, now do it. Zoom, it'll be fine. And I said, you're right. Let's do that. So we did one program a week last year, which was really aggressive.
Yeah.
It was really, really aggressive, but it was fun. And we did topics from, race in the law, to talking about depression and postpartum depression specifically, to fun things like, meditation and, and tech. You were a guest. We had you on for tech. So the topics ranged. We got amazing feedback. It felt like a club.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we did that. And then this year we scaled back once a month now, which is much more manageable, and threw in a podcast that we just started, which is really fun. And that just got on Apple iTunes a couple of weeks ago, featuring District Attorney Summer Steffen from San Diego. And
you have a great name for that podcast.
Spilling the Tea with MCLE.
Very creative, very cute. And is MCLE the URL as well? MSHE?
It is MSHELE.com, MCLE.com.
Well, I hope everyone goes and checks it out. It sounds like very important and relevant education and information for women, lawyers, but also, like you said, something that men could pick up and be a part of as well.
Absolutely. And we always link to all the most recent studies too. So it's a good source of information for folks who are looking for what exactly the numbers and the research show.
What's it like being president of a bar association during COVID, where members of a bar are probably really looking more than ever toward their local and their voluntary bar associations for help, guidance, tips, tricks? What kind of issues have you all faced? Or I know you have an excellent team and an excellent team at SDCBA and a great executive board. What's it like being president? You can't go to events. Everything has to be virtual. Do you feel like you've kind of like you got the raw end of this deal?
Not at all. Not at all. It's so funny. A lot of people have asked me that, and I think I'm okay with it because I'm a weirdly introverted extrovert. And so I love being a social butterfly, but I also really love being home. And so I don't necessarily mind doing these things from home. I miss the camaraderie. I miss being able to connect with people in person. But I feel like I'm being given the opportunity to really help people this year with getting through this. And when I say I give myself far too much credit at the county bar. I mean, you're right. Our team is amazing, and our programs and ed staff has seen like a humongous increase in programming that we're providing, most of it free, to the members to get them through this. We did updates with the state, federal, and appellate courts locally. We did the tech saved everyone's life. You saved everyone's life. When the pandemic hit and we had to work remotely, and there were a surprising amount of folks who were not ready for that.
Yes.
You saved the day and came in and showed them how to do it.
We got them there.
Gosh. And people were so grateful. So things like that matter. Things like that matter. If we can help people get through this, then that's so important.
There are a lot of internet personalities in legal who are constantly bashing bar associations and what's the value. And I also work closely with the Florida bar, much more closely with San Diego, and it's a smaller bar. So I can see the impact a lot sooner than with a bigger bar. But this was a time where I feel like every bar association completely rallied behind their members and helped with remote training or with training on how to successfully run a law firm remotely, with dealing with clients. The courts really stepped up. And I don't know, I can't speak for the rest of the country, but we mentioned it earlier, what the courts in San Diego pulled together to create almost, let's see, the pandemic started in March. And I think by May, maybe sooner, weren't they already having virtual hearings? It was like almost, I feel like they barely skipped a beat.
No, I wish it was that fast. I know the federal court, got in place pretty quickly. The state court took a little bit longer, but I feel like they had more moving pieces.
Yeah, for sure.
So, there were critics on every side, right? Don't reopen. It's not safe. Reopen faster. We need to get cases moving. And you're never going to appease everybody, but you just need to focus on function, right? So how do we do this? How do we do this safely? How are we going to step through this? And not just for the public, but these judges who are trapped in these rooms with people, right?
Yeah.
The court clerks, the business office, the guards so we have to make sure everyone's safe. I think that's always priority number one. And that's one of the things we're dealing with now as we consider reopening this year, knowing that the end of the pandemic is in sight and the bar focuses on when's the appropriate time? What are the appropriate indicators and triggers to when we start doing that? And wondering if people will come.
Yeah.
Feel safe.
It's another interesting thing, back to sort of San Diego being special, and especially for me with the bar there, that bar center. All right. So there are a lot of bar associations. I can think of two of them right off the top of my head that don't have facilities for members to come inside and work, meet with clients, provide services like copiers, coffee, and snacks. And so what you're saying might sound foreign to some attorneys whose bars don't have that, right? So they'll go and they'll attend an event, but the fact that San Diego runs basically I don't want to call it a virtual office because it's not virtual, it's brick and mortar, but has all these services for its members has created, this opening problem, because a lot of bars are going to have to figure out how to bring the staff back. But a bar like San Diego, which is very active, I helped create the log system. We were getting in 1 month, 500 attorneys coming in to use the lounge, the bar center, the copier services, and the meeting rooms with clients. So forget about committees, sections, and events. There are a lot of lawyers that actually use the bar as their office. So,
there are, and 60% or 70% lawyers in the state of California are solo, small firms. May not have their own space. And so it's a great opportunity for them to meet clients there, which is something we offer. You're exactly right. It's also right next to the court. So when you're waiting for a hearing, or you've been trailed, or you're in trial and you need somewhere to go and grab a cup of coffee or a cheese stick, that's your place.
It's going to be very interesting to see what happens. So we're into April now. What do you have? What are your goals for the rest of the year as president and as an attorney and a mom?
Good Lord.
Hey,
it's a huge question.
You must have a list. Where's the list?
I have a huge list. So I think the number one priority for me as president this year is that safe reopening. We're working really, really hard on that to try to figure that piece out, as well as continue with a hybrid program moving forward so that we can continue this remote for the people who either are ill, not comfortable with coming back, or as we know, San Diego County is spread out, right? So we had more interaction over this past year.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Across the county because of the remote access. So we want to keep that going. But we also want to, for the people who are dying for that in-person contact, bring that back when we can safely too. So we're looking for that happy marriage. And so I think that's going to take some time and planning to make sure that we're good with getting that back. So those are two really big priorities for me this year. As a mom, my child is sprouting. He's 4 years old. He's like 4 going on 20. I'm having so much trouble keeping up with him. He is back in school on a limited basis. And so that's scary right now. I'm one of those who's super paranoid about the germs and the virus, and there's no vaccine for children. So it freaks me out a little bit, but his school's wonderful about precautions and safety measures. So I think it's as safe as it can be. So keeping him safe, even if it's wrapping him in a bubble, is always my priority this year, keeping him safe. If I had to be super selfish, teaching him how to swim this summer.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, that's a big goal for me because he's in swimmers, but I want him to be out of swimmers.
Yeah.
So and that's the really big one, taking care of my grandma. She's 91. And
you're also a caretaker.
I am. And so trying to make sure that even though the pandemic has kind of messed up the last year for her, that she still has fun and gets to enjoy herself. So balancing all that.
Interestingly enough, you didn't even mention your work, because all those things are just as important to you, but you also run a busy law practice. So before I let you go, tell everyone where they can find, follow, friend you, and keep an eye on everything you've got going on. I think you're going to make it, kid.
Oh, thanks. I hope so. Fingers crossed. I'm going for gold on it. So my business website is stackhouseapc.com. I'm on Facebook at stackhouseapc and at RNG Stackhouse. I'm on Instagram at stackhouseapc and LinkedIn Renee NG Stackhouse. And so, yeah, find me, follow me, connect with me. It would be a blast to talk to anyone who's watched this and wants to connect.
You are always very generous with your time, and you're a great mentor and a teacher. And I encourage anyone who just likes your energy and wants to get advice or hear more amazing things that are possible as a busy mom lawyer from you, that I know you'll take the time to chat with them.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much, Renee. I hope you have a great day.
Thanks, Adriana. You too.